Last week at this very desk, my panel and I discussed all the happenings of the Pirates spring sports. Since then, baseball dropped a 3-game home series to Butler, and softball took a break from their conference competition to get their record back on track in a sweep versus Drexel. As for women's golf, a successful trip to Daytona Beach resulted in back-to-back conference championships for that experienced crew. Now baseball looks to renew a rivalry dating as far back as 1946 with Rutgers for a home, neutral, and away 3-game set, and softball has just 2 series left before the Big East tournament in Rosemont, Illinois rolls around. I'm George Balekji, and we will cover all this and more here on Hall Talk.
This team needs to show me something for me to believe that they're going to make a run in the tournament.
I think they can have a chance of going over 35 wins without a problem.
Just stepping up from the 4 points to the 17. She's just dropping threes like there's no tomorrow.
But chemistry is an underrated key in college basketball.
That was by far the best game I've seen them play.
This is Hall Talk, and that's how the chalk talks.
Welcome back to our Pirate Television studios right here on the campus of Seton Hall. And you recognize my panel like always. Aaron, John, guys, thank you for joining me. We're going to start out with softball here. John, this team is 5th in the Big East. They're 1 game behind Butler. What do they have to do moving forward to secure a spot?
Well, this is a very intriguing week, and it has been, with the doubleheader sweep over Drexel and then a 7-6 victory over Stony Brook. The win over Stony Brook, one in which they lost a 5-1 lead, and then they still found a way to win with Alexis Walkton delivering the walk-off double in the 8th inning. But I think that that's exactly what the Pirates need to do, what they didn't do on Thursday against Stony Brook in the win. They did not hang on to the lead that they had. So if you're going to be able to get into the Big East tournament, you've got to figure out a way to hang on to leads. They're forming those leads. They're just not figuring out a way to hang on to them. And if they're not hanging on to them, or if they don't form a lead in a game, then on the other side of things, they're falling behind too fast. The number one thing that when I talk to the players about in terms of weekend series, and they have 2 left against Butler on the road, a Butler team that's right in front of them, so Seton Hall controls its way in terms of getting after Butler. But then the following weekend against Georgetown, a last-place team. It's playing the same way against every opponent, and at times this team loses focus. It all comes down to focus. It all comes down to avoiding those self-inflicted errors, and it all comes down to figuring out a way to finish, George, and this is where experience matters most.
And Aaron, when he talks about all the experience that comes through, you talk about a player like Alexis Walkton. She's responsible for 2 out of their last 3 walk-off victories. What individuals have to step up?
Now, for me, it's not just step up, but Alex Walkton herself, she just needs to keep doing what she's doing. Like you said, John, you got to keep the focus going. They need to stay consistent, and especially with Walkton, she's got to stay consistent. 17 home runs on the year, leading the Big East right now, and she's on pace to just keep hitting them. And, Sarah Hayfield right there behind her with 13, so I like it. It's maybe a little friendly rivalry with home runs, and that'll just spark the fire, and they'll keep them going. They'll keep scoring runs, and maybe that'll give them a run in the Big East.
They need to make the Big East tournament. They are in position. They have the talent. They have the veterans in Danielle DeStazo, as well as Sarah Hafley in center field. Yazzie Harrell can play right and shortstop. The toughest part of this team is shortstop is a revolving door. They can't really find a consistent shortstop. And they've got the offense. They just don't always have the pitching. They need to put all the pieces together. This team has the pieces to put it together. They just need to actually do it. And that comes down to focus. It may sound cliche, but that's what it really comes down to.
And you go to the opposite diamond, of course, for the baseball team. They're just inconsistent as it gets. They have a big series coming up against Rutgers. They'll take a break here in their Big East play. What does this team have to do moving forward, especially with the pitching matchups they have ahead of them, with Prendergast starting on the diamond, then McCarthy in Game 2, and Skellinger to finish the weekend off for the Pirates?
It's not the pitching. I mean, you cannot ask for any better pitching than what you're getting out of the talent caliber that this team has. Zach Prendergast is a sophomore. Last year, Zach Prendergast was kind of an afterthought. Shane McCarthy is a freshman. Shane McCarthy right now is one of the best arms in the Big East.
Exactly.
So when you start that way, you can't really say, well, what's wrong with the pitching? Because Prendergast has emerged, McCarthy's emerged, and then Zach Skellinger. When you have those guys performing, at this rate, when you look at that rotation on paper, you should say, well, the offense better do some good things. The offense has just not been there. And it goes back to Sunday, where it's in the bottom of the 9th inning. And Seton Hall has runners at second and third with 1 out. With 1 out, runners at second and third down 2 runs. And you've got DJ Roman up at the plate. I'm just saying, DJ Roman and Salin Anziata have got to be hitters that are around 300. That on paper was almost a guarantee going into the season. Those guys haven't been there. The good news is I thought last year's team, I think a lot of Seton Hall baseball teams have peaked too early. This one has not peaked yet. Against Rutgers this weekend, they've got to hit. They have to situationally hit. They've got to be able to bring runs in, and they've got to do it the right way.
And this is a team, like you said, they're dropping midweek games, and it gets to the point where it's a midweek game, they can take it. They're not winning enough consistently.
Exactly, that's what you said, consistency. And just like you said, John, the bats is exactly where they need to step it up, because the pitching, they're getting it from the young guys. It's not even the experienced ones. Shane McCarthy, one of the best pitchers in the Big East there, and Anthony Elias coming in late the other day, early on in the game. He pitched more innings than the starter. All shutout play until the very last inning, and he just didn't get any run support at all. And you mentioned DJ Ruhlman and Sal Nunziata, who are supposed to be the big hitters on the team. Sal getting a home run in a midweek game this week. But, other than that, he hasn't really been doing anything, and DJ Ruhlman hasn't really either been consistent. And you got Zach Weigel basically being the Ruhlman of last year and still not quite at his notch.
And to me, my fondest memory of this team, when you look at their losses, it simply goes to when they leave guys on base. Just unopportunistic. They don't take advantage of their wins. What is it, a 3-1 loss to Butler, and before that, another low-scoring game?
A 1-0 loss.
They're not producing runs at all.
They're the fastest team in the Big East.
They're not getting Jenkins on base.
But you can't steal home.
Yeah.
You got to get some hits.
You get bases loaded, Kyle Grimm goes up and he
You
pops
need
out.
some
It's
hits.
just not
Well,
happening for this team.
Kyle Grimm has been the best, really, I think the best all-around player on this team. They need Ruhlman, the Big East Co-Player of the Year last year, and they need Nunziata to get going. That's such a dynamic 1-2 punch. Those two could be the most talented players in the Big East.
Yep, I agree.
They still can.
100% with him right there. You need Ruhlman and Nunziata to get it going. Other than that, they really haven't had anything. Over the weekend in that series against Butler, they were going against a team that didn't have a win in the Big East yet, and they took 2 out of 3 from us.
Seton Hall, just to remove all doubt, Seton Hall will go to the Big East tournament. They will be in Omaha, no doubt in my mind.
All right, things are heating up right here, but stay tuned right now. I was able to sit down with senior of the golf team, Ali Kruse, earlier today. We'll bring it back in and talk about that women and her team's weekend down in Daytona Beach. I'm now here with Ali Kruse, senior of the Big East champion women's golf team. Ali, thank you for coming into our studio.
Thank you for having me.
So you start out with last year going to Daytona Beach, first Big East tournament in this program's history. You end your senior season, Big East tournament again, back-to-back. First time the Seton Hall program's done that since 2004, 2005. I mean, what has that been like? Can you imagine when you first got here to have this kind of accomplishment?
It's been crazy to see how my team has changed so much from my freshman year, how much better we've gotten, and just all of the talent that my coaches brought in has really made an impact. Last year we weren't favored to win, we weren't expected to win, and we just came out with a bang and kind of stole that Big East title. But this year we definitely went in differently. We had a target on our back. We were favored to win, and this year meant a lot to me being my senior year. I really wanted to bring home a title for Seton Hall.
Your Coach Dole even mentioned that. She said how you guys went from the hunters to the hunted. Mm-hmm. What did that feel like coming into the tournament and your preparation?
It felt a little different. I mean, we still were grinding and working hard, but this year it was different because we knew we could do it. Like, we knew that not only we could win, but we were supposed to win. And so that definitely does add a little pressure, but I think we handled it well and came out with a win.
I think Big East championships, you can't handle it any way better. And I mean, you talk about you want to come in, all the experience you guys have. You along Erin, you both were a first part of this program's first team victory at the Siena Invitational. When you look back on your freshman year, look back to the Mark ending of your senior year, it's not over yet. You guys still have regionals,
yes.
But what has that been like, the ride from freshman year to senior year?
Both Erin and I have improved tremendously since our freshman year and since that first win at Siena, and since then we've seen multiple more team wins. Both Erin and I have won an individual title, and we definitely wanted to lead this team both on and off the course, and it was nice for both of us. We were both all-tournament team at the championship, for both of us to end with a bang and to really help our girls win the championship.
And talk about Erin a little bit. I mean, she had one of the hottest ways to close out the tournament. Mm-hmm. She didn't have a bird in the beginning and just found the click at the end.
It was funny because Erin and I were rooming together, and her first 2 rounds she played super solid, but she didn't have any birdies. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about it, and I could tell she was kind of getting a little antsy about it. And she talked to her golf coach and said, don't put pressure on yourself to make birdie. Every putt is just an opportunity to do better. And so her dad has this funny thing where if she makes a birdie, he wears a pirate hat, and not like a Seton Hall pirate hat, like a real like Captain Jack pirate hat with like a bird on it.
Yeah.
And so Erin was playing right in front of me, and I was kind of not nervous for her, but I wanted her to have a good round. And I saw after the second hole that her dad had already had the pirate hat on, which means she already made a birdie. So I was like, okay, she got her birdie out of the way, she's going to be rolling. And then come to find out, she tacked on 4 more and shot 2 under in the final round, which was awesome. We couldn't have won without that.
And you talk about you and Erin, you guys are seniors, you're going to be leaving this program. You look down on it, especially in the freshman and Cassie Pantalis. How much comfort do you have with this team that there'll be consistency when you're no longer a Pirate?
It'll be hard. It's weird for me to think about not being on the team anymore, but I mean, we're leaving a super strong program. Coach has 2 more great recruits coming in next year, and then Cassie, I always say that Cassie's going to break all the records that Erin and I set. She's a great player. She's a strong player. She's got a lot of confidence. And then Mackie as well, her other freshman cohort, definitely is an excellent ball striker, and I can see her making a big impact in the next coming years. And
this team, I mean, when you come with the Big East tournament, you come away with that victory, that also gives you a really good chance of getting a berth in the regionals. And like you said before, we were talking earlier, what region are you looking forward to playing? Are you familiar with any of the regions as well?
Not super familiar with the regionals. So like we were talking about, we can go to North Carolina, Texas, Utah, or Indiana. So kind of all over the board. And honestly, we're happy anywhere. We're happy to go compete. And the best part of regionals really is getting to compete with the best teams in the nation and getting to see not only how we stack up against them, but the opportunities that come from that. For example, last year we beat Coastal Carolina, who were ranked in the 60s at the time. And because of that, College of Charleston. But because of that, we got invited to their tournament this year, which is the biggest. They host 40 teams on 2 golf courses. It's the biggest women's golf tournament in the nation. So it's just cool, the opportunities that came from that. So I'm excited to see what opportunities could come just from us playing in the regional, let alone doing well.
As a team like this, when you guys win last year's Big East Championship in the spring, of course you have your season begin in the fall, you take a hiatus in the winter, come back in the spring. How do you sustain the hotness and just the experience you guys have and everything like that? You stay consistent throughout.
It's definitely, the winter is definitely hard, especially up here. Obviously, it was snowing like every other day. So it was frustrating, but we do a lot of good indoor work. We work on our technique, and all of the girls really put in the extra effort towards the end of the fall and at the beginning of the spring. And thankfully, we get to go on a spring break training trip. So we have a full week of hitting off grass, hitting in warm weather, and getting ourselves back into it. So the spring was a little challenging weather-wise, but it was just focusing on like our mental games really and our confidence there.
Ali, everything you guys have accomplished so far, I mean, we got to thank you for bringing this program. You were there from the beginning. For you, it's the end, but this program seems to go further. Where do we got to be for Selection Monday for you guys?
Well, so our selection show, it's in the new viewing room. It was funny because so they have this great new viewing room, right? And we're like, what are we going to watch our golf swings on the big screen? Like, we're never going to use that. And then my coach is like, no, we get to have our viewing party there, our selection show. So we're like, oh, we finally get to use the room. But so it'll be on the Golf Channel starting at 7 p.m. So tune in if you want to see what regional Seton Hall is going to.
Perfect. You heard it right from her. Go right to the Golf Channel. That's where you want to be. All on Selection Monday for the women's golf team. Back-to-back Big East champs. This girl gets it. The rest of her team does. Ali, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
A thank you to Ali Kruse for coming into our studios, guys. I mean, the experience she has with this program, it was just great to sit down and talk with her. That's a successful weekend they have, but their job's not over yet.
Their job's not over yet, George, but I look back to it, and at this level, at Seton Hall University in athletics, the number one thing when I talk to any administrators, it's about winning conference championships. There's a great value to getting the NCAA tournament, but there's an even better value to represent your conference. And you know what? Sarah Dahl, in 5 short years, people forget, this program is only in its 5th year. 5 years ago, it was dust. Now, they are forming quite what could be an era. This is a big-time coach, and it's easy when you don't have a lot of players, obviously, you don't have a ton of players on your team. But still, is there a group that's more tight-knit on campus? Do you hear of a group that has, there's not a group like this one, really. Seton Hall Women's Golf, for what they've done for the university's athletic programs, what an addition this was. There was a lot of heat for the removal of track from Seton Hall. Women's golf has certainly performed. This is a program that Sarah Dole has built. I admire her passion for it, and I admire the passion of a lot of these ladies. Ali comes in here, the way she represents her program is absolutely fantastic, and these ladies rose to the occasion. They rose to the occasion on the biggest stages. This was a lot harder to win this year than last year, and they still found a way to win. And Megan Tenenfeld, on top of Cruz and McClure, you knew somebody else had to step up. She steps up on the 18th. They step up under pressure, and that's something that, you know what, I think more programs here need. Women's golf's inspiring.
And you're right. I mean, 2 seniors, 2 juniors, and a freshman, what they went out with. And you see with the outcome that they come back and bring back South
A
Orange.
lot more pressure this year, too, because you won last year.
Exactly.
They had the targets on their back, like Ali mentioned.
So, yeah, I mean, you got Ali Kruse coming in. She had a 77, a 76, 74, and then a 78, you know, up and down. But her second round and just consistency overall got the team going. And Erin McClure, a slight struggle in the beginning with 77, 77, a 2 under par in the final round to keep the team going. And they were head-to-head with Georgetown and Xavier going into the final round there. And then you mentioned Megan Tunnenfeld. You know, up and down again. Her consistency wasn't quite there, but a clutch chip and putt in the final to secure the victory for the Hall.
In this tournament, the outcome of it was a one-stroke victory by the Pirates. And then, Ali, I should mention, too, Cassie Metalis is the future of this program.
Exactly.
Aaron, I mean, talk about how invaluable the experience is for her as a freshman.
It's
to come in.
phenomenal to have her coming in as a freshman when we finally have a full senior class playing a full 4 years here this year. And her, you know, she struggles early on in tournaments, and then she always, like I said earlier in this year, she always has a one final round. She notches it in a 70-something under par, a 69 sometimes. It's incredible. But just to learn from this force, like just from all the seniors here, as a freshman, being able to contribute such success to such a successful and on-the-rise program, it speaks for itself.
It starts with the leader, and the way Sarah Dole runs this program, it's indicative of how they've been successful. I mean, that is how it starts. You have to have a good leader, and she's been an outstanding hire by Pat Lyons.
And with the golf programs, you look across this conference, not to knock the Big East at all, but there isn't a clear-cut first-place team.
That's the good thing about it, that it's anyone's game.
There is right now, and it's
that's
Seton Hall.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Once you win it once, you got to keep going and keep the winning going. And if you fall off, people are going to start talking, and you know what we did? We fought the talk and won it again.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so before we end here, we mentioned it before, the Rutgers matchup for baseball. You talk about the hitting, how it's struggling. Real quick, John, I'll start with you. What's this outcome of the series? What's your prediction for this weekend?
It all comes down to the meat of the order. If they perform the way they should, and the Hall's going to have a good weekend, you got to take Game 1 at O&T Carroll Field. It's going to be tough to take it in Piscataway. I think this goes into a rubber match on Sunday, and I think the way Zach Skellinger's been playing, if the hitting can continue, I will go ahead and I think the Pirates are able to get back on track. I think they're playing with a little chippiness this weekend. They know that they've been slumping.
Yeah, exactly. Just like you said, the bats got to get going. Rutgers coming in. I like the pitching matchups for the Hall, even though, you know, we got a home, neutral, and an away game. I like the pitching matchup. Rutgers, they got a 1-6 pitcher, a 1-6 pitcher, and a 1-4 pitchers, all with ERAs just about at 6. While the Hall, the bats, it's time to get it going, and we have good pitchers coming in with Shane McCarthy and Pendergrass, like you said.
Throw the numbers out, Seton Hall. Just play your game, and if the bats do that, everything's going to work.
Exactly. You know, they're making good contact with the ball. They're just hitting them right at people. They need to start making great hits.
Just play with the good shepherds that they are.
Go.
Well, guys, thank you very much for tuning in this week. We have 2 episodes left before the academic year is over. I mean, it's crazy that this is coming to an end already, but hey, make sure to catch those. We'll be posting them weekly. As always, for George Balekji, he's Aaron Ross, John Fanta. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know where to tune in next week. We'll see you.